folks. Welcome to Old Town Temecula. This is Western Days. I'm Dynamite Nick Clifton, and I am leader of the Old Town Temecula Gunfighters and host of this weekend's event. So welcome. We have lots of things to show you, and right now we have one of our members playing a theme song from for the Gunfighters that he wrote. And we are at Sam Hicks Park, right next to the Temecula Museum. We have some also performances at the Hotel Temecula today, and we're just having a great time out here. Let's go down here and I can introduce you. This first booth is the Temecula Valley Historical Society, and they've brought the historical pictures of Old Town Temecula, and we've got Badlands, and we're teaching kids how ropes were made. And so,
who wants to tell us?
Bonnie,
what are you doing here?
Well, I represent the Temecula Valley Historical Society, and we like to participate in events that have a historical or old-time flair, and we are telling people about all the history that's here in Temecula.
You're going to make ropes?
we're teaching the kids how ropes were made.
So they are teaching children how ropes were made, and actually adults too, because there's a lot of adults that don't know how ropes are made.
Very cool.
Yeah, they're also cowboy reenactors. So. Yeah.
So what hours are you all here today?
So
I think it's from 9 to 3.
Okay.
From 10 to 3 today. Yes.
10 to 3.
And
From now on.
From all, yes.
Is there a cost?
There is no cost. This is free. We want to just introduce everybody to the history of the Old West, the history of Temecula, and so come on down and learn something.
And how long have you been doing it?
Oh, the Old Town Temecula Gunfighters have probably been around about 31 years. We have a 100% safety record, and we go all over, Nevada, Arizona, Southern California. We have 3 different reenactment groups here: Code of the West, Guns and Garters, and the Old Town Temecula Gunfighters will be performing the Old West shows here at Sam Hicks Park and at the Hotel Temecula.
So you're keeping history alive.
History alive. We love it.
And right here in Temecula, California.
It doesn't get better than that.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Have a great day with everybody, and really enjoy doing. Come on down.
All right, Gussie, Kat. Hey. Who else is here? This is Gussie. She's one of our members of the Old Town Temecula Gunfighters, and they're teaching children how to hand stitch. So these are all.
I have made packs of 4 quilt squares, and I show them. So you put these 2 together, hand stitching, and then you put these 2 together, hand stitching, and then you put them together opposite, and you come out with this.
Very cool.
And it's all hand stitched. Now they can make either a pillow, or I made these pot holders years ago. You can tell they're well loved, well worn. They can make a pot holder. These are old quilt frames that you could do on your lap, and I show them that also. And of course we've got quilts displayed in every size that they can put together. So just a lost art of sewing. Hopefully.
And quilt making, which is a huge part of the history of this country.
Right.
So thank you for your time, and you guys are here until 3 this afternoon.
Yes.
Come on down, Temecula Western Days. Oh, and there's some rope. They made some while we were standing. Look at that. Very interesting, and thank you.
When the wagons went across the plains and stuff like that, if the rope breaks, they have to make something to replace it. And so this is what they do. They take the grasses that were available, spun them together, and then this machine takes a piece, there'll be 3
Oh, I see.
three,
Go on to
three
those loops,
locations, and then as it spins, it makes it from the 6 into 3, and then as the paddle is going forward, it all comes down to 1.
Boy, there was no shopping mall to go and do this when. They were traveling across the country.
No.
So thank you. I'm glad you pointed it out, otherwise I would have walked away without it.
Okay,
Thank
well,
you.
All right, so next little booth is Shelly, and she she's what we call a sutler from the Old West. And Shelly has games for kids, historical books, items that of clothing that are historically accurate. Shelly, and so this is Shelly back here, and she goes to a lot of Civil War reenactments and provides,
19th century. I'm your 19th century dry goods store. I have souvenirs, I have educational materials, I have items for reenactors. Mostly 19th century. I have patterns and sewing supplies, and I teach sewing workshops.
So you come on down and you're set up your store like you would have in the old times?
Yep. I have my men's section, and I have my women's section, and I have children's things, and I have things for the public for souvenirs. And
so they can come on down today, which is Sunday the 14th,
Yes.
I believe it is.
15th.
Sunday the 15th. And buy some of these items so that you've got them. You don't find these at every local store.
no, you don't.
So thank you. What's your store
search-
called?
It's the Kansas Mercantile, and I search high and low for things that would be appropriate.
Well, thank you so much for sharing, and have a great day.
So in keeping with teaching children the skills from the Old West, perfect. Look at these guys going. This is the old water pumps.
Hi.
Well, hey, hi.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
This is my Girl Scout troop.
Oh, right. This is a Girl Scout troop down to visit Western Days.
They've already done the telegraph. They sent words in a sentence, actually.
And what are they doing here?
They're having a bucket brigade competition. This team is against this team. They're pumping the water here, and the first team who fills both buckets down there first, or the quote-unquote fire, if they fill it to overflowing first, they win. So it's
and they're
heavy
all
competition here.
working really hard at putting out that fire.
Yes.
Oh my word, look at that. Have fun, guys.
Would you come over here and instruct you? This is Morse Code. So teaching the kids the Morse Code, and let Deadeye come in and explain this. Deadeye's a scoutmaster.
The Troop 309 in Temecula. And what they have to do, here's the Morse code right here. We're teaching the kids the dots and the dashes, but they have to send it so that the person receiving understands it. So we have them go really slow. So we'll have the sender, we'll go a dot, it's registering over here, so a dot and a dash. And then they hold the dash down for the count of 3. And then when they go to the next letter, they wait to the count of 5, and then they'll put in the next letter, dash, dot, dot, dot. That's what the sender has to do. The receiver has to write vertically. So you got a dot and a dash, and then there's a pause, so then he goes down vertically, dash, dot, dot, dot. And then they forget about this until the message is done, and then they come back and they say, oh, that's an A, and that's a B.
And when was this used and why? What were the purposes of
This was early communication for, we call it the cowboy texting, way before cell phones, way before telephones. And the Morse code, I'm not sure how long it's been used, but it's been used for over 100 years. And they actually had another code too. I can't remember the name of that. But this is the fastest way to communicate across a continent at that time. And they would use relays because the DC power would just go so far. So this station would send to the next relay station, and oh, this is a message for Chicago, so they just keep on sending station to station until it got there.
so it could go across the country?
It could go across the country. And during, I think, the 1880s and 1890s, they actually had some way to get it across the oceans too.
By the way, this is Deadeye, and this is our Wyatt. These are members of the Old Town Temecula Gunfighters. No,
You're
they
telling
don't.
the world.
They don't.
Oh, what? Howdy, ma'am.
Welcome to technology.
Thank you guys, and keep up this awesome work.
Come on,
Thank you.
Jillian.
And you are here to give lessons till 3 o'clock today.
I'll introduce you to some friends. If you're from Temecula, you might have heard these boys. These are the Blacksmith Boys. They actually do, they're all skilled blacksmiths and musicians. They do a variety of, music from country and bluegrass. They call their style of music crabgrass. So, hey guys, Jillian from Reality Rally is here, and show them what you guys do.
Yeah, come on.
Come on over here.
Alrighty, we had some customers already. Kids on the horses and the whole bit.
I think Frank's getting engaged over here.
Right? This is Todd.
But it's okay.
These are the Blacksmith Boys.
So what is he doing over here?
He is making a horseshoe nail ring.
Ooh, very cool.
He's fitting it right now.
And who are you, and where do people find you, and what do you do?
Well, you can find us at blacksmithboys.com, and what we do is we do blacksmithing and we play music. So we got Frank's 32 Ford pickup here with a blacksmith shop on the back here, and we got some items over here, things you can make out of iron, and demonstrations, and talk to folks about blacksmithing.
And this is obviously somewhat of a lost art, or not?
Actually getting a lot more popular now. A lot of people are, since some of the shows on TV, people have gotten into wanting to learn blacksmithing. So you'll see a lot of people taking classes and getting involved in the craft itself.
Cool. And what are you doing with your horses? Are they running away from you today?
Well, they didn't get very far. These are for folks to get on and take pictures on. So we got some hay bale horses here.
And you go around and sing. Are you going to sing today?
We are going to get some music going here as soon as we're finished.
Okay.
Play a set or so.
Good. I'll come back and catch your music.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to get to know you more.
Well, thank you.
All right, let's go. I guess go this way. So to your left, we have more of the Historical Society. And they brought over from the Historical Society the stagecoach and their kiddie train. So we're giving rides on the kiddie train. There, folks can take pictures of the iconic monument behind us. They came this way. This is Daryl and Rebecca and Tony. Okay.
Do you want a ride on the train?
Huh?
Would you like a ride on the
Would you like a ride on the train?
I would, but let's finish that. Oh no, you could take us to the other
up there.
side.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
All right.
Yes, thank
Let's
you.
take a ride.
And who? What's your organization called?
The Temecula Valley Historical
Hold on, I need to get a little
Society.
closer. I'm gonna come through the bushes. All right, who are you guys?
We're the Temecula Valley Historical Society.
And where can people find you?
They can find us on the corner of Red Hawk Parkway and Temecula Parkway in the Big Red Barn, and at Vale headquarters.
And you have all kinds of amazing events going on there.
Yes.
Every Friday,
We have
Tuesday.
something every week, and you can go there at any time, and there are fun activities for you. But especially the last Friday night of the month, Sunday afternoons, most Saturday evenings too.
Tuesday mornings.
Tuesday mornings at
Farmers
Margaret.
Market.
Right, correct. And this is all a result of you guys' fortitude, perseverance, and never giving up, because it was you guys' dream to bring it back to life.
Yes.
And it took how long?
22 years.
22 years. Now that's worth taking our hats off to, because that's what people can now enjoy and see the history. So thank you for doing that. And yes, I would like a ride all the way around.
All right.
And I will be filming as we go. So
Great.
And while we're doing that, I
to
can
see
introduce
you.
you to Captain Grace. Captain Grace. He is a reenactor and also a member of the Old Town Temecula Gunfighters. Would you like to take a ride on the train with us?
I would love to take a ride on the train.
Will that fit?
I will make it fit. That's the way it works.
You make the
All
train
right.
fit, or the...
I'll make me fit in the train, because that's where the challenge really comes
What
from.
would be to interview Captain Grace while we go around?
that would be great.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to sit here, here, here? I can sit it here. So you guys
Open
have
would
enough
be
room.
better.
Open would be better.
All right.
So I will go there and
You
you
go
sit
here.
here.
Very well.
All right.
Okay. So what are we riding in?
Well, a little train.
And people can come down today, which is Sunday, well gosh, it's not May, it's September 15th. And they can bring their children and adults. You can see, good grief, look at that. We've got two wonderful gunfighters and Civil War enactors sitting in the front. So they can come down and take a ride.
Yeah.
Absolutely, come on down, enjoy the day.
All right, we're off. So tell me a little about Civil War and reenactments.
Well, do you want to know about the reenactments themselves, or do you want to know about the 69th Pennsylvania themselves?
Where do you do these? Where can people see you?
Well, we do them all over Southern California. We just had an event 2 weeks ago at Huntington Beach. We were down at the Vista Steam Engine and Tractor Museum. We have one coming up in 2 weeks at Jensen Alvarado. We've got Corona in the Cronenberg Renaissance Fair area. We have a reenactment there in April. So we have a lot of reenactments that happen throughout the years, and we're always looking for recruits. So if you want to join, we're easy to find.
How? How do they find you?
You can contact us, check on the Facebook pages. There's also another one called CivilWarAlliance.com. You can check that out, which gives lots of Confederate groups and some Union groups. So depending on what side you would like to experience, you can go and actually meet with the groups, talk with them about their history, and they'll put you in a uniform, with a rifle in your hand, give you some training, and maybe even take you out on the field with them. So you get a chance to experience it. And if you like it, it's a wonderful hobby to spend your time doing, spend weekends having fun with some great people.
And you're all, you guys, how many of you are there? And you're all part of the Temecula Gunfighters?
Well, I'm a member of Old Town Temecula Gunfighters, but each Civil War reenacting group has their own organization. So there's many organizations out there. So I'm with the 69th Pen, great group of guys. We have a lot of fun. We were also known as the 2nd California at the beginning of the war. We served from the beginning to the end. When E.D. Baker was unfortunately killed at Ball's Bluff. Are we supposed to get out? I guess we gotta get out now. So I'll talk to you in a second and resume our tour.
Thank you for the ride, Captain Darrell.
Now, Jillian, you pick. We have a reenactment going on right here, or we can go through the Civil War.
Let's go and take a quick look here, because then that may end.
This is friends of ours called the Code of the West.
Sir, my gal, always has been. Take your paws and clear out.
Well, I ain't gonna do it. You and I are gonna settle this outside now.
Right!
So as you can see, this is all a reenactment of what a gunfighter battle would be outside the saloon, which probably happened a lot in the, early 19th?
Late 1800s, after the Civil War, before the 1800s. Code of the West, in fact, this is their leader, Wicked Red. And they're very, very much known for their historical accuracy, and this is probably one of their skits that's taken straight out of history.
Thank you.
All righty. Oh,
okay, we got there just in time.
We got there just in time, and now what's happening here?
Let's go around this way. This encampment, they brought a Gatling gun and another gun. This gun is called a coffee grater, and it was a gun that you just dump the ammo in and crank that crank, and that was a military weapon. This is Robert, and he is. This is his encampment.
I'm a little worried about going to my dentist.
Well,
What's up with them?
Robert,
They were cooking this morning. I saw them bring out some food right there.
Morning.
Yep, it's
Breakfast
sitting right there in that
and
pan.
Up there, and
yeah,
it smelled good this morning when I was past
that
it.
weird telegraph sticking out of you.
Would you like to tell Facebook about your weapons?
Yeah, we represent the 2nd United States Cavalry, and we are here this weekend with the first machine gun, built in 1860, and a reproduction Gatling gun. They're both reproduction, but a reproduction Gatling gun that was built in 1862.
And this is your camp?
This is our camp. We slept here last night. We're cooking here, all our meals, and we're happy to be here.
And this is basically what you would have done in the Civil War?
In the Civil War, yes it is.
And lived outside like this for years?
Lived outside, camped in tents or under trees, and for 4 or 5 years.
And wore wool.
And wore wool, yes.
Oh, wool.
Just like this.
And in the heat and the cold.
In the heat, the cold, and the humidity.
So, Jillian, would you like to go to school?
Oh, what about? Oh, well, yes. I always want to learn something. You know how that goes.
Oh, here's the Gatling gun.
And right there, they're got downtime. Obviously, during the war, they don't have to battle all the time.
This is the saddle that we would have ridden in the Civil War. No, straight rawhide.
This is just one time a year.
And then this is a Gatling gun.
This is the Gatling gun, the famous Gatling gun. He has given demonstrations of the Gatling yesterday, and hopefully maybe today. I don't know. We'll see.
Whatever they want to do.
Yay.
Very cool.
Now we can go to school if you
now
want
I can
to.
go to school.
Would you have a moment to tell Facebook about your school?
What would you like me to tell you about? A one-room schoolhouse in 1862.
And how many kids would you have?
It would depend on the town. It would depend on the town if we even had a school, if they could afford to bring a teacher in, if they could afford to build a schoolhouse. And when I go through the lessons, we'll go through the subjects, and we'll talk a little bit about each subject that would have been taught during that time. It was actually up to an 8th grade education, because after that, boys would be off and either in the military or out in the fields. Girls may have their own families at that time. We talk about corporal punishment and discipline. We even talk about before they come in that you would have walked 2 to 4 miles to school already before you even came in. And then I have a bucket of water here to wash your face and hands before you come in the schoolhouse, because cleanliness is next to godliness in the schoolhouse. So we go through that. We talk about discipline, and I have the dunce cap made of a Harper's Weekly of 1862, along with when we talk about geography, I have a map of what the United States actually looked like on June 30th, 1862 as well. I have several books that are prior to 1862, and we talk about how students wouldn't have their own materials. We would recite things together as a class from the chalkboard.
And these were all ages?
These were all ages. And so when I have the students come in, older students sit in the back, younger students sit in the front, boys sit on one side, girls sit on the other, and older students would learn their lessons directly from the teacher. That big word up there we talk about, abecedarian, and it's someone who is learning their ABCs. So all the other kids would be helping to teach the younger kids. And that's what would happen in a one-room schoolhouse in 1862.
And those are your subjects right there?
These are our subjects that we go through. So when we actually do rhetoric, you'll hear all the students chant together the 2 proverbs I have up on the wall. One of which says, children are to be seen and not heard. The other says, spare the rod and spoil the child. And so that introduces us to our discipline and how teachers were allowed to punish and discipline as they saw fit. So I talk about rapping on their knuckles, I talk about beating them with a paddle, I talk about the dunce cap, and I talk about the writing standards.
Oh, and I'm not even that old, and I remember the knuckles and the paddle and everything. Thank you for your time.
We have a library.
Okay. All right. Shall we go to the library?
The rival that saves the trophy is green. By stealing the girl of the sea.
Good morning. Would somebody have an opportunity to talk to Facebook? This is Jillian. She's from Reality Rally, and she's doing a Facebook tour.
The library.
Yes.
So you have books for people to come and check out?
Well, we do if you're a member of the town. Now, judging by your clothing, you're not from around these parts. But if you were and I didn't know you, you couldn't just walk into my library and check out a book. First of all, you don't touch my books. You come to the front, you tell me what you want, I go back and get it. They're organized my way. Dewey isn't alive yet. We don't know who Dewey is. And so they're organized the way I want them to be, and I will tell you what you can check out. And I have to know you. So if I don't know you in town, you're a stranger to me. You have to bring in a character reference. to come and tell me, somebody who I do know, who will vouch for your good character before you check out a book.
I'll
Books are
vouch for
very
Jillian's good
expensive.
character.
All right then. These are $1 or $2 a piece, so you can't afford to buy a lot of books unless you're independently wealthy.
So you buy them rather than check them out and return them. Okay.
But I'm not going to trust you to take home my book if I don't know that you're a good, upstanding citizen. But if you are, you could certainly check it out.
Okay.
And how many books I would have in my library would depend on the people of the town. Public libraries were paid for by the town itself, so the town would get together. This was not a federal thing yet. The town would get together and say, we want a library. And you would vote to have taxes. And so how many books I had goes down how many taxes you gave me, how much money I made, was how much you guys decided you wanted to pay me, and so on. And so the more literate the town, probably the closer to the railroads, because it was hard to transport books otherwise. So the closer you were to an urban town, the more you cared about reading, the more books I would have, the better selection I would have.
So listening to history makes us really realize how fortunate we are with what we have compared to what there was.
We really are, and the fact that at this time, because books were expensive and because literacy was still growing in towns, having access to an education when you couldn't afford to go to university was really a big deal. Because before public libraries, and there were only 2 in 1833. So before that, if you wanted access to books that you didn't own, you had to be rich enough to pay for a subscription library, or you had to go to university. And you couldn't go to university unless your parents were wealthy, because otherwise you were working on the farm. And no one cared if you knew how to read. And so there was no opportunity to learn. You couldn't just go get a book and raise yourself up, right? The American dream, rags to riches. And you couldn't do that unless you had access to an education of some sort.
Well, thank you. This is fascinating, and it makes me realize how fortunate I am as well. Yes, support your public library and recognize what we have. Thank you, and enjoy your day here too.
And can you tell us what's next door?
Well, you're telling us this is a ladies' parlor.
Oh, ladies' parlor. Captain Grace, would you introduce your lovely wife?
I would be more than happy to. I would love to introduce my wife to you. This is Mrs. Annette Grace. I think that's what you look like. And I'm going to let her tell you all about her parlor, because she is lovely. I'm a lucky man to be married to the love of my life, and she'll give you a wonderful explanation of her parlor.
Thank you. And this is your parlor.
This is my parlor.
If you could stand a little closer so I can capture, there's lots of gunfightery stuff hanging in the background. So tell us who and what you do.
Well, I do a couple different things. One of the things that I do is I'm a home sewist. So the military can't produce shirts fast enough for the gentlemen, so actually they pay me and several other ladies to sew shirts for the military. So I sew shirts, and I talk about some of the things that we do as far as how to cut them out and the sewing and the different stitches. Also, I talk about the different layers that ladies wear in their all the different layers of clothes that we wear, so that way people know how many we have on.
And you've got quite a few by the looks of it.
Yes, quite a few. Usually there's about 8 layers of clothing.
And hot as it is, that's how it is.
It's actually not that hot. We use all natural fibers, so everything that we wear breathes. You can see, you can almost see through the fabric. Because it's a very lightweight fabric, we use historically accurate.
So are you expecting guests to your parlor?
Yes, yes. I do have ladies come calling. We talk about calling and the calling cards that we would have used. And we also have ladies' tea in the afternoon.
And how would people use a calling card? Get a card, use a card, etc.?
A calling card.
Early day business cards.
Exactly, and they did actually originally look more like black and white boring business cards. They started becoming more decorative, and eventually we'll even start putting on fringe and neat little pockets to put information underneath to make them more decorative. If you were going to visit somebody, you would have turned down a different corner depending on the message that you wanted to leave. If you were leaving town, if you wanted to say condolences, or various things. If you had if you would have left the card yourself, you would have actually folded a different corner, so that way to convey that message. And also, as a lady of the house, the most important thing we are supposed to do is to promote our husband. This is we're networking for them. So we would have taken 2 of our husband's cards as well, and taken that and left it for the gentleman of the house, one for the lady of the house and one for the gentleman of the house, even if he wasn't home, so that way we could network for our husband.
Very good. Early networking. That was well before.
Networking. And
so networking isn't that new?
It's not new. It's been around for a very long time, just using different forms of communication.
Oh, thank you. And you'd have to get your cards printed, I presume,
yes,
somewhere.
Yes, you would have them printed, exactly.
not as easy as Vistaprint or the local printers. So thank you for your time, and this is amazing, and again makes us appreciate what we have.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Actually, this side would be the civilian side of the 1800s, 1863s, and over here we have the military side. And again, like Captain Grace is the leader of this group, and so he can tell you what this encampment is about.
Hi, welcome. I am the captain of the 69th Pen, and helping me today are members of the 10th New York. So they were kind enough to come out to the event and help us out. You can see by the way that they're dressing, it's more of a Zouave uniform. Would you like to say anything about the Zouave uniform?
Yes, they were based on the French Algerian units. Many state militias adopted the Zouave uniform. We were used as light infantry and skirmishers, typically in front of a column of men. And we traveled lightly, typically using just small tents, pup tents. For example, the camp you're seeing here is more of an example of a winter encampment.
Right now, as you can see, my uniform is more of the standard, you know, darker blue coat and sky blue trousers, which is more of what we would have worn. But we did have Company K in the 69th Pen as an honorary certificate, received Zouave uniforms. So we did have our own style of Zouave uniforms within it as well. But you could see the officer would put his tent at the top, and then you would have tents coming down both of the sides, which would create what they call the company street. And at the end would be the colors would be posted. And that way it would let you know where the company was, and they would form up in the center of their company, and then they would march out and meet up with the rest of the other companies to form their battalion or regiment line for morning inspection.
So I noticed that the U.S. flag is covered. Is that the equivalent of hanging at half-mast, or you just haven't taken the cover off?
That's the equivalent of keeping it protected at night. We would keep the colors protected. In fact, usually at 8 a.m. in the morning is when they would go ahead and unfurl the covers with a ceremony. We haven't done that yet. We've been dealing with a lot of other duties this morning, but yes, we will be taking care of that.
So it would certainly be treated as a ceremonial event.
Absolutely.
Every day, morning and night.
Not as what we're used to today, but they had a different way of doing it then. Flags were very important back then. A lot of people don't understand how important they were. That was the last item that they actually received from their family, their loved ones, or the city that they were coming from. That is the last item they received before they marched out into the battle. So this became not only a symbol of pride, but became a symbol of home. It became a symbol of the loved ones. So if it was captured, it was like capturing your loved ones. So flags became very important, and they fought to the death to make sure that their flags were not taken and that they kept them in their own possession. That was very important.
And I see that you do have women traveling with you, or normally in battle they might not be.
Well, there were women that served as men during the American Civil War, but there were women that were women, and some of them were laundresses or seamstresses or cooks and things like that. Not a lot of them. There was also vivandières or cannoneers. There's French Mary, who was with the 114th Pen, and she would carry a small cask of whiskey with her. So when a soldier was wounded in battle and she was out there on the battlefield, she'd give them a little shot of whiskey to help them with the pain until the ambulance corps was able to come and pick them up and take them back to the doctor for whatever medical attention they needed, which usually was amputation at that point in time, unfortunately.
So as you can see, it's been amazing. Western Days is being held right now in Temecula, Sam Hicks Park, and at the Old Town, at the Temecula Hotel.
Yes.
But every year.
Every year.
When do you do this?
Right now we've been doing it in September. We're going to get the dates out for everybody for next year. Now yesterday we had an historical music brass band, which all of the instruments were from the 1800s, and they performed out here. And yesterday we actually had Ballet Folklorico, gorgeous little girls in their colorful, dresses. So each day we have something a little different, and so we're hopefully that you got an education and learned something from history today. and that's what we're about.
And if people are not able to get down today, how do they find your website? What, Facebook, website?
Old Town Temecula Gunfighters on Facebook. We do have a website. The Temecula Gunfighters perform every fourth Saturday at the Hotel Temecula. And so then we go to other states and perform. We do gunfighter competitions where we have, you know, accurate clothing and perform. And like I said, we just want to keep the history alive and let the kids learn. This is all. If you turn around, look at all the kids. You know, this is great. This is what history is about.
And she is actually performs. She has a schoolhouse there, and she's going to give the kids a small lesson in what school would have been during that period.
Yeah, we just went through.
Yeah, she told us about the schooling, but now I can see the kids are so eager to get in. A little different from today. They kind of drag their feet, watching their smartphones as they walk in.
That's right.
And I see a different uniform on this gentleman. Is that's
Why don't you go ahead, Corporal, and explain to them why you're wearing the colors that you are, what it means, and who wore them during the war?
So as you can tell by Captain Grace here, he's actually wearing the Federal Navy blue as the standard color for his coat. The reason why mine is inversed, why I'm wearing the sky blue, the kersey blue, and the dark blue piping, is that originally it was made for the men who can only provide light duty, those who have ailments, those who have basically disabilities with inside the war. Two things that it was called was the Invalid Corps, which was for all, again, those who had disabilities, and then the Veterans Reserve Corps for all those who were veterans in the war that only could provide so much to the Army during the time of the Civil War.
So people could recognize who you were and your role that you played by the uniforms you were wearing.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
This uniform is actually based off of the precedent of the Union Army frock coats and sack coats. This is actually a Mexican-American War design with the epaulets actually being able to come off and all the buttons and all the trimming and everything.
Cool. Well, very good, and thank you so much for sharing. This will be up. I'm getting it on YouTube so people can perhaps see what history's all about.
Us, yes.
Thank you.
You're most welcome, Jillian.
Signing off.
Thank you.